Well, guys, we're back this week on the blog with a Zoom interview. Can you believe it? It's been so many months since I've been able to do a Zoom, and I'm thrilled to have this first one back with Meghann. It's Whistler, or
Yes.
okay, I'll make sure I pronounce that correctly. Hi, Meghann.
Hi, Dina.
It's good to have you here on the blog this week, and I'm excited for you to just jump right in and tell us a little about yourself and your family, and then we'll go from there talking about your writing and your upcoming release.
Sounds great. Well, thanks so much for having me. My name is Meghann Whistler, and I started writing Christian romance maybe 4 or 5 years ago. My first book came out in 2020 through Love Inspired. And then I independently released a book in 2021. And now I have a new book coming out from Love Inspired in 2 weeks called The Baby's Christmas Blessing. So,
Oh, let's see that cover again.
oh, sure. It's got the man holding the
You
baby.
know what? You cannot get any better than that.
It's very cute. They did a great job.
I know what woman. I know Love Inspired is mostly, the audience is women. Like, what woman can resist a man holding a baby like that?
It's so true.
It's a great cover. So you just said you started writing. You said 4 or 5 years ago.
I started writing Christian romance 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
I've actually been a writer for a long time, and I went to graduate school for creative writing. I have a master's of fine arts in creative writing
Oh, nice.
that I got way back in 2003.
Yeah.
Um, and I did write a book back then. It wasn't a Christian book, it wasn't published. I did try to publish it, but it just didn't happen. And then I went into marketing for a long time. I was the marketing communications manager at a software company for a number of years until my youngest child was born. And after I had him, I had three of them at home. They were all really
Well,
little, and it was just too much to keep working full time out of the house. So I quit that job to stay home with my kids. And about a year later, I was sort of looking for something to do in those little pockets of time when the kids were taking a nap, where we're being quiet. And I had started reading a lot of Christian novels, and I actually hadn't even known that there was such a thing as Christian fiction until about 5 years ago. So I stumbled across some Christian fiction and started reading a bunch, and somehow came across the Love Inspired novels. And
mhm.
I'd read a bunch of them, and I was thinking, I bet I could write one of these. I think I could do it. So that's kind of how I started on this path. Is it was just a little project that I would work on, for an hour a day when the kids were sleeping or in the child care room at the YMCA. And yeah, it took off from there. So it's been fun.
Yeah, that's cool. So you have 3 kids?
I do. I have three boys.
Nice.
They're a
Yeah.
handful.
I was gonna say I had 2 girls and a boy, and they're definitely way different. But as they get older, the boys are easier. They're,
Ah,
it's harder when the boys are younger, but as they get older, they're quite a bit easier than the girls.
oh, well, that's good to know.
Yeah, and all the weddings you don't have to plan and pay for. That's a plus too. But I wouldn't change it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you've told us about the genre that you're writing and kind of what inspired you to do that. Now, the love inspired novels, they're a little bit shorter than like a traditional novel. How many words is typically in a love inspired?
They're about 55,000 words, so a little longer than a novella, but a little shorter than some of the trade fiction.
Right. So how long does it take you on average to write one of those novels?
Well, it depends. If I'm in the zone and everything's going smoothly in my life, it takes about 3 to 4 months to write a draft. If things are not quite as smooth, it takes a lot longer. I think the first draft of my first book took me about 9 months. So,
Yeah. And then I find that the editing process is taking me a lot longer than writing the draft. Do you spend much time on editing after you get your first draft down?
I do. And I will say that's one thing that I really love about working with my editor at Love Inspired is she, particularly with the first book, really helped me with the developmental edits. So the story edits. Um, and I did rewrite a lot of that book based on her feedback. I think I rewrote it twice.
Hmm.
And it changed quite a bit from the first draft to the last, but it really made the story much tighter and
Hmm.
much more in line with what people who pick up a romance novel are looking for.
Yeah, for someone like me who is not published yet, it's encouraging to know that you can get a contract and your story still needs a lot of work. It doesn't have to be perfect when you submit it. If they like your writing, maybe they think this person has potential, they'll help you get your story where it needs to be.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I think so.
that's very encouraging. So, are any of the stories that you've written inspired by any true events or personal history in your life?
Yes, I mean, not sort of the events, but the setting is definitely part of my life. My first book and then this new book that's about to come out are both set on Cape Cod. And my mother's parents, so my maternal grandparents, lived on Cape Cod and owned a beachside inn
Oh,
that we would visit every summer. So when I was thinking about where to set my first book, I just really liked the thought of reliving those childhood memories and kind of going back there on the page of the story. So
wow.
I set my first book. Actually, I made the heroine owned that beachside inn, and it's a little bit different from the one that I visited when I was a child, but sort of that's what I had in mind when I was writing.
Yeah, that
So
sounds
that was a lot of
beautiful.
fun.
That sounds like great childhood memories and just a wonderful time. I love the beach.
Yes.
I haven't been able to go much this year. I haven't been locally. I did go to Myrtle Beach and spend about 4 days on the beach there, so that was nice.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah, so I love like beach reads, anything set on the beach. I love that. So tell us a little bit about this book that's coming out, The Baby's Christmas Blessing. A little bit about the story without giving too much away. Talk about maybe some of
Sure.
the characters and which ones were easiest for you to write or which ones were the biggest challenge. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Well, it's a second chance romance. So the hero and heroine knew each other as teenagers. They met at church camp one summer and had like a little sweet, innocent teenage romance. And then they were sort of torn apart at the end of summer, never spoke to each other again. It's been 11 years. And the hero comes back to Cape Cod after some personal tragedies. And his great aunt is helping him look for a nanny for his nephew because his sister just passed away, giving birth to the baby. So he needs a nanny so he can go back to work. And who shows up? But the heroine. So it was a lot of fun to write because the way that these two left things when they were teenagers, I mean, he really just sort of disappeared on the heroine. So she had no idea why. She was really upset. She does not have good memories of this fellow. So um, sort of coming into it from that place of just like really what did I ever see in this guy? You know, he's not a good person. And then sort of slowly seeing her attitude change was a fun thing to write.
Yeah, I think second chance romances are good for the happily ever after stories, that are put out there because they have to fall in love, so quickly by the end of the book. And sometimes it seems rushed, like, okay, they don't really even know each other that well, but they're madly in love now and they're going to get married.
Right.
So I really like the second chance stories where they did know each other before and they have some history. It makes it more believable for me as
Yes.
a reader.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, which character was maybe the most difficult for you to write?
Um, different parts of all of them are at times easy and at times difficult to write. Except for the baby. The baby was a very easy character to
Yeah.
write. Um, and it was a lot of fun thinking about my boys as babies and sort of little pieces of things that happened when they were kids. But I mean, I love writing tortured heroes, the wounded hero, just because those are I don't like the alpha male heroes at all. That's not what I like to read. So I really enjoy writing sort of the wounded, sensitive hero.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to get inside the head of the characters and go through things. But also when you're giving a character a traumatic past, it's also can be difficult to kind of put yourself in their shoes and think about how they would react or respond to certain events.
Yeah. Do you have to do much research for things like that?
I do research things. And, I was really fortunate with this book. I had a friend who is a Department of Child and Family Services lawyer and had also been a social worker prior to becoming a lawyer. So that was a helpful,
Yeah.
helpful contact to have for
Yeah.
this particular
I
book.
might need to talk to them about my own book
Mm,
because I like that too, and with hard topics and real wounds that people have gone through, and bringing hope through that.
yes.
Um, so, were there any hard scenes in the book that you had to write because of his past?
There definitely are hard scenes, but um, I find as a writer, sometimes writing those really emotional scenes is actually easier than writing some of the other scenes. Just because when the emotion is so heightened, I find that my words flow a little easier. So sometimes the really emotionally challenging scenes are easier to write than some of the other scenes.
Yeah. Do you find that you have to maybe put yourself in a situation from your life that caused you emotion to feel that and pour it out on the page, or do you not think about things from your own personal life when you're writing those emotions?
I don't think I think about particular events in my own life. I do sort of tap into similar emotions, not necessarily triggered by anything similar to what the character's going through, but we're all human and we all have feelings. And so I will kind of draw on, how I feel in certain scenarios, or um, just the thoughts and feelings that come along with that.
Hmm. Do you have any favorite quotes from the book?
I do. I think my favorite quote was probably a quote that the pastor said in the book that the hero remembers a little later when he says, "We're all hurt, we're all broken, but with God's help, every single one of us can change."
Mm.
Um, because that's sort of the theme of the book is just with God's help we can overcome, we can be victorious over our struggles, and
Mhm.
things that seem impossible are possible with God.
Right. Yeah. So is that the message that you want readers to take away from this book when they read it?
Absolutely. That's what I love about Christian romance is, they're very uplifting and they leave people feeling hopeful. So yes, change is possible. And also I think another message that really comes through in this book is we're all children of God, and that's our identity. Not the things that have happened to us in the past, not the things we've done in the past, not our mistakes,
Mm.
but we're God's children, and we look forward and do what we can moving forward to live up to that.
Right. And so many people, women especially, need to hear that message, because in our society and culture, we can get so wrapped up in identity in so many other ways. I know for myself, with dealing with this rash for the past 6 months, it really plays on your emotions and, everything mentally. It's not just a physical thing as a woman in our society. Um, how we look and, when you're covered up in a rash and even still, not, I've lost a lot of my hair and not being able to wear makeup and, just certain things that as women in our culture we're kind of expected
Mm,
to do, it can be a real identity crisis.
right.
And I love that about fiction too, that we can write fiction stories and God can use them in such a powerful way to preach truth and relevancy into people's lives. It's not like preaching, it's not a sermon, it's an enjoyable story, like you're talking
Right.
about, a romance and um, just can be relaxing, but still teaching and helping women, especially, to know who we are in Christ. So I love that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So, with three kids, what ages are your kids now?
They are 11, 9, and 7.
So, I'm sure there's a lot going on in your life, in your household. How do you balance your family and your other obligations with your writing and deadlines and all of those things?
Sure. Well, it's definitely easier now than when I first started 5 years ago because my little guy was still home full time at that point. And now they're all in school. So,
Yeah,
I write when they're in school and when they're home, I'm mom, I'm the chauffeur, I'm the cook, I'm the maid, I'm their
right.
playmate. So, um, that's sort of how it shakes out. So it's a little easier now that school is back in session.
So, do
Um,
you write every day? Do you write all day while they're gone, or?
Um, I try to write every day. Some days it gets away from me. But when I'm in a good routine, then I am writing usually every day between 1,000 and 2,000 words.
Yeah, and how long does it take you usually to write that many words?
Oh, it takes a while. I'm not a fast writer, so it can
Yeah.
take me, 4 or 5 hours to write 1,000 words.
Do you edit as you go, or do you just write it all out and get to the end and then go back and edit?
I edit a lot as I go. It's hard for me to move forward until I'm 100% happy with what I have on the page. So I know a lot of people swear by just getting the story out, but I find I am not a plotter.
Right.
So I'm a very character driven writer. So the story changes a lot as
Hmm.
I go because
The
the
character's telling you what
characters,
they're doing.
exactly.
Yeah, I found that too. But not editing as you go calls for a lot more editing later.
Right.
I found that too with my story. Just I had no idea what I was doing and just wrote it out, and then I got to the end and I had a big old mess to clean up.
Oh no.
So I've been working on that for a couple of years, just learning the writing craft and figuring out how to fix, the story. The bones of it are still the same, but just a lot of fixing that had to go
Right.
on.
Right.
So, what do you enjoy most about being a writer?
Goodness. I really just love the act of writing. It's really a joy. I love to read and I love, writing a sentence, writing a scene, writing a character that speaks to me. And um, so I think it's just the whole process really is sort of a dream come true for me. I've always wanted to be a writer. Like I said earlier, I went to school for it. And I enjoyed writing marketing type writing for the software company, but not the same way that I love writing fiction.
Yeah. So you love reading, which a lot of authors do love reading. Do you read pretty much straight romance all the time, or do you enjoy other genres as well?
I like a lot of different genres. I will say that since I started writing Christian romance, I read a lot of Christian romance. But I do read other things from time to time and I enjoy them. So it depends on sort of what my mood is.
Yeah. So because you were in marketing before, does that help you with marketing as an author? Like, there's so much you have to do on social media, be active on these various platforms. Do you enjoy that? And do you find that your history with that has helped you?
In certain ways, I do. I mean, the marketing that I did at the software company was business to business, and this is, straight to the consumer. So it's a little bit different from that perspective. But what I enjoy about marketing is really finding readers and building relationships with them. So I really enjoy writing my newsletter, which goes out a couple times a month because I hear back from people. They write back to me with little stories or things that they liked about my books or, things that are going on in their lives. And that's fun
Mm-hmm.
to kind of hear from people and know that they enjoy hearing from me.
Yeah.
Um, and I will say that the most the social media platform I'm most active on as an author is Facebook because that's where most of my readers are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you hear a lot about people talking about TikTok or Instagram or things like that, and I find that tends to be a much younger crowd. The Christian romance tends to attract a slightly older crowd.
Right.
Um, so, I am active on Facebook and it's the same thing there. You start to get to know people on Facebook, people comment on your posts, you see their posts. So, it's the relationship building part of it that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
don't enjoy just posting for the sake of posting. I don't, I see certain authors just posting, purely promo about their books and I don't enjoy that. I don't like feeling salesy or
Yeah.
feeling like
Yeah.
I have to find readers that way. It's more just building those relationships and if people are interested in the book, great. If they're not, that's okay too.
So yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think building relationships will sell more books because I find myself, I'm subscribed to a lot of author newsletters and you see a lot of stuff out there, but I find myself reading the ones where I feel like I've made a connection with that person.
Right.
If I don't really know them or have any kind of like, who is this person, I delete, and
Hmm.
I'm not really engaged
Right.
with reading their newsletters and all of that because I can't keep up for one thing with all all of the emails. But you choose those ones that you feel like somehow in some way. So I think
Right.
relationships is definitely the biggest thing. So do you have a favorite novel or favorite author?
I have a lot of favorite novels, a lot of
Yeah,
favorite authors. It
yeah.
changes a lot.
Mhm.
But one Christian romance author that I really love is Becky Wade.
Oh, yeah.
And I hadn't read any of her books until probably 2 years ago.
Mm.
And then I read them all,
Yeah,
pretty much in like a month. Um,
yeah.
but I really love her Porter family series. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, I enjoy her books a
She
lot.
does some neat things. I've read a few of hers where she has like texting back and forth, like at the end of a chapter, and just some unique little things that she adds to the stories that make it kind of fun. So, as we wrap this up here, tell us what's coming next from you. What can we look for?
Oh goodness. Well, I'm working on a couple different things. I'm working on a new book sort of in this same Cape Cod series for Love Inspired. I'm just working on the proposal right now, so I don't have a release date. I don't know if, if it's going to come to fruition, but I am taking some of the characters from this book and giving them stories.
Yeah.
And then I also have another a follow up to my independent book, which was The Billionaire's Secret. So I have another billionaire book that's about halfway done. I was hoping to get that done for this past summer, but unfortunately it didn't happen. So right now I'm looking to release that hopefully sometime next spring.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you joining me today and sharing about your writing and what's coming up for you and your family and see this connection and getting to know you a little bit more is going to make me want to read more about your newsletters and what's going on. So I really appreciate it. And I know that those who are watching this will make that connection too. And hopefully they will buy your books. Everybody buy her books and read them and review, review, review. Like when you're done reading reviews, I've learned I did not know before I became a writer how important reviews are for authors. So now I really try to encourage everybody to review the books that they read. So, any
Sounds
last
good.
words before we wrap up and say adios?
Well, thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll be seeing you around on Facebook and social media.
Sounds good. Thank you,
All right.
Dina.
Bye.